Welcome everyone to the first edition of SDG Action Conclave 2020, and we are conducting today's session focusing on SDG Goal 10, which is reducing inequalities. Let me tell you a bit about our organization. Youth Forum is a project under Alexis Society, and our team consists of inspired young students and professionals who are solely interested in creating positive social impact by conducting research on policy issues, writing thought-provoking and insightful blogs, designing creative social campaigns, organizing life-changing events, and interviewing leaders and change makers. As it is correctly said that the youth are not only leaders for tomorrow, but also partners of today. So we at Youth Forum, uh, a team of creative and encouraging individuals with a shared mission, a mission to change the world. So through this first edition of SDG Action Conclave, we wish to bring together the change makers and the leaders from around the globe under the hashtag Act for SDGs campaign week of the United Nations. It will help to prepare an actionable agenda that will aid all in achieving the sustainable development goals through all the initiatives and more. While the world leaders meet virtually at the United Nations General Assembly to take up the trying issues and give a solution to the tough times, we are trying to do our small bit by taking action and raising awareness and initiating a better direction ahead. The turning point of the planet and the people needs to be now. Let me introduce the speakers for today. Major Arun Ambati is a veteran from Indian Army Parachute Regiment. He served the Army for 11 years. Major Ambati is currently serving as the director at Glow Global. We also have Major Vivek Jacob with us. He served in the Special Forces for 18 years and is currently serving as the founder at the Glow Global. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I would like to introduce our chair, Kunal sir. Mr. Kunal Mandal is the co-founder of Gyan Space, a gamification company which uses quizzes and other games as a tool for personal growth and people engagement. He also founded citybitesindia.com, a travel portal which helps travelers discover and book inspiring city experiences provided by local experts. Currently, he's on a mission to teach curiosity as a life skill, increase awareness about sustainability, and empower young Indians to be more than they thought they could be. So, to take the discussion forward while trying to arrive at solutions through this session on SDG 10, I would like to hand over the conduct to Kunal sir.
Thank you, Ashima, and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you who is joining in and listening in here at SDG Action Conclave. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a very, very special guest with me today, and he is Major Arun Ambati. Arun, a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kunal. Thank you so much. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. And last time when I was talking to you over the phone, there's something you mentioned and that stayed with me. You said that freedom is a collective experience. It is not individual. And that sort of stuck with me. So to begin the conversation, I would go back to that and say that, can you elaborate more on that and help us understand what you meant when you said freedom is collective?
Yeah, in the sense that, freedom is a collective experience, until and unless all of us have it, none of us do. In the sense that this addresses the core of SDG 10, if I was to talk in the SDG language. It is about basically creating a fair and equitable world for everybody. So until and unless the weaker section of the society are not uplifted as much, if the elites keep going ahead and ahead, it is of no use, in the sense that it is going to create a lot of social tension, and it is going to create a lot of turmoil in the world all around us. So the need to address inequality has been widely accepted, right? So it is about inequality. So when we came outside, when we started this journey of social impact at our own levels, what we realized is that supposedly the weakest link, we don't view them as the weakest link. We feel that people with disabilities have a certain spirit which all of us can learn from, but they are supposedly disadvantaged. They are not internally weak, but the environment around them is very unfair, right? So that is the section that we wanted to work with. We wouldn't say that we want to help them, we don't want to patronize them, but we want to work with them. There is a mutual osmosis happening over here. At one hand, we help a lending hand, wherein we are addressing this iniquity that exists and the world that is unfair towards them. On the other hand, they possess a certain spirit that matches with the spirit that the special forces hold, and we feel that that spirit, in the correct context of the youth and the teenagers and the young people having a lot of mental health issues and things like that, so that spirit and that way of living, that style of living that they develop not by choice but by circumstances, can be imbibed by the able-bodied people. So that is what we are working on. So the chain is as strong as the weakest link. So we have to strengthen the weakest link, the rest will follow, right? So it is like a catalysis and a positive feedback loop that we are triggering by working with people with disabilities and working with them on a very, very deep level. Yeah. So that is freedom is a collective experience, Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, chain is as strong as its weakest link, and that's such an important lesson for everyone who is listening in. I will, of course, dive deeper into the work that you are doing at Raw Global and all the other work that you are doing. But before that, for all the audience that we have who are mostly young, I can't possibly skip this question. You were part of the parachute regiment, and the resilience you have shown after the parachute incident is an inspirational story for all of us. But my question to you would be that how has the army training helped you with that? And are there any teachings that you would like to share or pass on to the young minds who are listening in and watching?
So yeah, it's pretty much sums up what Operation Blue Freedom is all about. So we've titled it Operation Blue Freedom is for a simple reason. The word operation comes from the style of working that we imbibe in the army. This style of working is based on trust, loyalty, and brotherhood, where things that are said are meant and things that are tasked are executed no matter what. There are no excuses, kind of a thing. So we look at every task that we do as an operation, that it has to be done come hail come strong, right? So that is the spirit that we want to bring into the social sector. This kind of an animal spirit exists in a competitive market in the business world, what the economists called as the animal spirits of the market, but it doesn't really exist in the social impact segment. But we, by virtue of our circumstances and our life experiences, bring in that kind of a passion and that kind of an intensity and that kind of a decisiveness in doing this. So that is where the first word of what we are doing, the current project that we're working on, Operation Blue Freedom, the term operation signifies as to what is that learning that we are bringing from our army background into the civil world, into the social impact segment, into the development landscape. Correct. So that is what we are bringing in. As far as what can the youth learn from the army per se. So, for example, when people join the army, a lot of people say that people join there for the salary and whatever be the reasons. But if you are there, once you are there, how we train the people is by making them do what they like doing. So we explain why they are doing what they are doing. So this is a lesson that every young person should take in every walk of their life is, they should do that thing that they like, right? Not worry about money, not worry about insecurities. You just do that thing in the best possible manner, the money will follow. So you do what your heart likes and the rest will fall in place. So that's the spirit that we would like to pass on to the young people listening. Yeah.
It's such a valuable lesson. Do think before you do things. You do things only that you love, and especially if you said that think why you are doing what you are doing, and that will be the most crucial question that you should ask yourself to grow and do better things. At this point, let me dive deeper into your life story and the sort of beginning of Raw Global. You mentioned previously to me about your accident and injury that happened during a training exercise. So tell us a little bit about it and then how it has changed and shaped your life going forward.
Yeah. So I got hurt in JNK. It was not exactly a training operation. It was a live operation. It was a counter-insurgency and counter-terrorist operation. I was heli evacuated and I was hospitalized in Srinagar Base Hospital. So I was hospitalized for an extended period of time, close to 80 odd days. So At that time, I had injured my knees, my shoulders, my spine, and I was basically everything below my neck was in pain. Right, I could not move left, I could not move right. I was bedridden, and the only thing that I could exercise at that point of time was my brains. So I was just thinking, and I started reading, and I realized that there's a whole lot of social issues in the world out there. And the more and more I kept dwelling about it, the more and more I became more passionate about wanting to do something about it. So there is a certain problem outside in the world, that there is inequality, there is chaos, there is hardship, there is pain, there is a lot of issues in the society that needs addressing. And when I came outside, I saw a lot of inefficiency in every turn, right? And with my skill sets, I felt that I could do something about these things. So I wanted to put in my collected experience and my skill sets into addressing all the inefficiencies in the society that I observed, and wanted to address all the social issues which I felt was very much within my power to do something about it. So that is my journey. So Major Vivek Jacob has a similar story. He started this, he conceptualized it. So he had a skydiving injury. He got injured in the training event where he was skydiving for combat free fall, and then he was co-hospitalized with another Air Force officer who had a spinal cord injury, and he was based on paralyzed, and he was in hospital for close to 4 years. So he became very close pals with him because they were sharing the ward, and he saw the turmoils of a life of a person with disability. There is marital discord, there is turmoil in the family, and then there is helplessness. And besides all of that, he still wants to live. That's how it triggered him, when he could spot the soul within a person with disability. When one day he walked across to him and said, I'm on a wheelchair, but I would like to scuba dive. You are a commando, you could train me, right? So that is the spark. That's the spark when he saw that, okay, we think that they are pretty helpless, but they're not helpless. They have a spirit. In spite of there is so much shit happening, the world is hostile to them. There's a lot of trouble in their lives happening outside, but they still want to live life. First survive, then stabilize, and then thrive. Now he saw a similarity between this mindset and the mindset that a special forces person holds. Now, when a special forces person operates behind enemy lines, let's say, so he's surrounded by enemies. You are in a hostile territory, so you have to first survive there. Survive, stabilize there, and then you thrive, and then you execute the task you go there for, destroy your target or whatever task you're going there for, right? But the first thing is surviving in a totally hostile environment, where the environment is 360-degree hostile to you. Now, a person with disabilities, the built world is not built for them like that. It's the moment they step out of their beds, the world is hostile. Their houses are hostile. He has to think 10 things before he heads to the bathroom, right? Forget he deciding to go to a nearest cafe shop or a bar and go have a outing. He has to plan it like a military operation as to how will I survive this. Where will I take my leak? Where will I find a bathroom? Will that place have a wheelchair accessibility? Will it be accessible for blind people, and so on and so forth? It's an operation for him on a daily basis, where he is constantly planning to survive, stabilize, and then thrive. So in spite of that, they decide to live and they decide to thrive. Now, this spirit, this mindset, this overlap of mindset which a person with disability and a special forces soldier share, this is the mindset which we feel is the world at large needs at this moment. So that is what Claw Global is all about. People with disabilities and special forces joining hands and mainstreaming this mindset for the world at large, which is ridden by mental health issues, a lot of chaotic problems. There's increasing number of suicides happening, all of that. And we feel this is the magic pill that is going to heal the world at this moment. So it's not that we're not patronizing people with disabilities. We are saying that the able-bodied people have to learn something from them as well. In the process, we also give them a hands up. We are not empowering them in the sense that they are already empowered. We are only removing the roadblocks that we have placed unfairly. For example, I'll give you an example. So you are a person, let's say you hold 10 skills, but there will be still 10 skills that you don't hold, right? But we look at the 10 skills that you hold. But when a person with disability comes, so there are 10 things that he can't do, but we don't look at the 10 things that he can do. We look at the 10 things that he can't do and extrapolate it for things that he can't, and he extrapolate it to such an extent that we feel that he can't do anything. We bracket him as being helpless, right? And we bracket him as being not employable. So this is the mindset that we want to change. Correct? Basically, highlight the abilities which exist with, within people with disabilities. Yeah. So that is Claw Global and Operation Blue Freedom all about. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Major, for sharing that story. And as you rightfully said, that it's us, the onus is on us to change the mindset and develop the mindset and look at the things that people can do and then use that, for the betterment of the society. Now, of course, your life experience and how it led to a new consciousness and passion to improve the lives of people with disabilities is really, really inspiring. And it's, great to see that how you are adding value to people's life through the application of special forces mindset and the skill sets that comes with special forces soldiers training. And, you started Claw Global. One thing that I would ask at this point is, I think it started as Special Forces Adventures, if I'm not wrong, and then it became Claw Global.
Yeah,
and I found the name really interesting. It is Conquering Land, Air, and Water. So I would like to know about that. What is this about? And another question that subsequently I would have, I'll put it here, is what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while building Claw Global? And how did you solve some of them? That would really help some of our audience understand.
Yeah, I'll just go over what is Claw Global and Operation Blue Freedom. So Claw, as you've already brought it out, stands for Conquer Land, Air, Water, right? We could have made it Claws, Conquer Land, Air, Water, and Space as well. We'll get there eventually, But it highlights multiple things. Firstly, it highlights our skills in that sense that we hold mastery in skill sets to navigate these environments in the best possible manner. In the air, we are trained in skydiving, parachuting, paramotoring, whole lot of air skills for aerial insertion, and under the water, over the land. So we hold these specialized skills in to a very, very high degree. For example, our scuba divers hold around 20 to 30,000 hours of underwater experience. That is crazy levels of scuba diving if you compare the recreational world. And they do it in dark waters, in waters which are crocodile infested, waters which are, hazardous and toxic water and things like that. So Conquer Land, Air, Water is firstly expressive of the proficiency that we hold in mastery over these elements, and basically passing on that mastery to people with disabilities to conquer these elements and navigate and move and make their lives easier. It is about skill transfer, the mastery over these elements, emergency first response skills, survival skills in all these elements, and transferring the skills to the world at large, because these skills have a lot of widespread business application. What is also important is that it's not just about doing some jazzy things about skydiving or scuba diving. What this does is it triggers a certain mindset where you have confidence when you operate in the world across. So this mindset of confidence is what we want to imbibe in the youth. What we feel that is through these activities that it is going to change their life. So world over there is recognition of this kind of a concept, but in India it's just nascent at the moment. So that is what we are taking. So that said, the next part is what were the challenges we faced. So this journey has been very beautiful. It's magical. If you look back at 2 years that we were, and where we started and where we are today and what we have achieved, I just want to tell the viewers that we have done this without any money. We have not taken any money from any governmental agencies, any corporates, or any outside support. We needed money here and there. All of that we have bootstrapped it ourselves. We have pumped in our own money to be doing this. Each of the soldiers forget about getting paid. None of us have been paid so far for a year or two. It doesn't matter, because we want to do certain things, and money will not be the deciding factor whether we will do that or not. The money will follow. That's the conviction, right? So in fact, we have pumped in our own resources, but the universe has also walked in. The more we pumped in, the universe opened doors for us. It opened doors for us in terms of relationships that we have built. It has opened doors for us. People have contributed in terms of resources. People gave us scuba sets. People gave us swimming pools to train people with disabilities. People with disabilities trusted in us. Things like that. So there are a lot of powerful connections that we have made. There are a lot of progress that we have made without absolutely no money. So how, what I would like to tell people, कि funding आएगा तो मैं ये idea implement करूँगा. Please don't get stuck there. Just move, things will follow. If you have value to offer to the world will bend itself and try to capture that value. So we will believe in the value that you have to offer to the world, and then take that first step, the rest will come. So it's like that. Yeah.
Major, being an entrepreneur, bootstrapped entrepreneur myself, I totally resonate with what you said. And the fact that valuation is a byproduct of value is so well put. So thank you so much for sharing that inspiring note for all the young listeners.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, you mentioned it briefly, but let me dive deeper into the stigma that we have in the society. So if you look around us, we do not always see a lot of positive attitudes towards people with disability. And, just one example that comes to my mind. India has won 12 medals at Paralympics. And, Devendra Chacharia, Deepa Malik, there are so many examples who have won gold medals, and they're exceptional at their sports. But even at that, we don't really celebrate them, as often as we do, everyone else. So how can we tackle this problem? How can we, like you said, that we need to change our mindset? Is there any framework that you'd like to suggest which will help us do that?
Yeah. So the problem that people with disabilities face is multifaceted. So there's an entire spectrum of problem. So the entire spectrum of problem is like this. So firstly, there is wrong perception. So wrong perception leads to prejudice. When they go for jobs, so they don't get jobs. So since they don't get jobs, they're sitting at home and they don't have financial independence. So the family views them as a burden. And since they don't have to go outside for a job and they don't have leisurely activities and outdoor activities, they are confined to home. So when you are confined to home, and then there is no visibility in public life, in public spaces, you don't see them much. If I was to tell you that India has anywhere between 7 to 10 crore people with disability, this is hard for you to visualize it because you don't see that many number of people in your daily life. So then it becomes a very easy problem to brush it under the carpet. Arey, do char log hain, theek hai. Don't have to really look at them, they'll be taken care of. The problem is brushed under. So it's a very vicious cycle. So firstly, there is a wrong perception of their abilities, which leads to joblessness, and then there is lack of financial independence, then their confinement to home, and then which leads to invisibility in public spaces, then they slowly fall out, and then it's a downward spiral. So to reverse that downward spiral, you have to trigger an upward spiral. So you have to tackle all of this entire spectrum of issues simultaneously. So you have to tackle the perception so that people start looking at their abilities, then they get jobs, then jobs will give them financial independence. When they have the spending power, there will be products and services developed for them. When they have jobs, they will travel outside. There will be greater visibility in the public spaces. If you are traveling a road and then there are 4 people standing and there are 2 people on a wheelchair who are also struggling there to travel or get on the pavement or something like that, it's going to irk you, it's going to prick you. And it is going to become a problem that bothers you as well. You're going to realize the full extent of what they go through, right? So visibility is a big part of it. Outdoor activity is a big part of it. Getting them out of their homes is very, very important. That's why we conceptualized these outdoor-based programs where we wanted to work on it. Tackling perception change. So that is the biggest thing out there. Like I said, if there are 10 things that a person with disability can't do, there are 10 things that he can do. It is to look at that first. Second, it is also about recognizing that if we can do 10 things, there are 10 things that we also can't do, right? So why this discrimination? So we decided that they have to be projected in a very, very powerful manner. So this mix of a special forces lens, things looking and projecting them as special forces, projecting them in very powerful. If you were to Google Operation Blue Freedom, we have put outside a video called Operation Blue Freedom Genesis. So we are generating powerful imagery, and we are doing a global campaign, a global media campaign, showing them as powerful, not as people who need to be pitied. We are going to be showing them independently scuba diving. We're going to be showing them independently skydiving, not tandem, So that is the problem. You mentioned that there are people there are so many Paralympic medalists from India, they don't get the recognition. I'll give you another Very, very striking example. A year or a couple of years back, there was a very, very viral video of a person who went paragliding, tandem paragliding, and he was scared midair. He was citing like "Mummy, main kahan aa gaya? Mummy, main kahan aa gaya?" That video went viral in India, right? Everybody knows. If I was to show you a meme of that person, you would recognize, okay, which is the video I'm talking of. You know it, but nobody in this country knows that India has the world's first blind solo paraglider anywhere in the world. Solo paraglider, and that too a person who is blind. We don't know him, but we know the person who is able-bodied and he was scared midair. This is problematic. None of us know that India has the first woman amputee Everester, Arunima Sinha. We don't know that India has the first double amputee mountaineer. India has the first triple amputee mountaineer. People who don't have a hand, don't have both legs, they have climbed Kilimanjaro, they have climbed, Mount Kosciuszko, they are headed for climbing all 7 summits. Chitra Sen Sahu, Tinkesh Kaushik, people like that. So Shekhar Gaud is a double amputee who's a mountaineer from India. We don't know them, right? But we know the person who was scared mid-air, so there's a problem. So this is what we are trying to tackle by generating powerful imagery, by talking about it in the best possible manner. For that, we are leveraging the power of arts. The power of filmmaking. We are roping in filmmakers with disabilities. We are roping in influencers with disabilities, adventure icons, and we are running a global campaign through this world record to shatter that mindset and shatter it once for all and nicely. By showing them as being powerful. They are pretty powerful. That is exactly what we want people to be able to see, that spirit. So that is what we are working on through the triple world records that we are creating with people with disabilities and so on and so forth, and the concomitant media campaign planned around it. Yeah.
As Major Arun says, these stories need to be spread more and more, far and wide. So everyone who is listening in, please find these stories. They might just be in your backwards, and please share them with the world. You share a lot of memes, as you said, but also share these powerful stories that will help people know more about the potentials that these people have, and then we should focus on the 10 things or things that they can do, and not just on the things that they cannot do.
Yeah.
Major, while discussing, you said one thing that we don't always see a lot of these people outside.
Yeah.
And one thing that comes to my mind is I'll share this quote that I read. So Stephen Hawking, the celebrated British physicist, he said that people with disabilities are vulnerable because of the many barriers they face, attitudinal, physical, and financial. Addressing these barriers is within our reach, but most important, addressing these barriers will unlock the potential of so many people with so much to contribute to the world. And I think whatever you said to us, it just resonates so much with this, thing that he also shared.
Yeah.
And I'll share a personal story of mine. So I broke my one of my leg last year in a trekking accident, and it was in a hilly region, and I had very much difficulty, and I was stuck in a wheelchair. And most of the nursing homes that we went there, this was in a small place near Nainital, and even the hospitals were not built accessible for these people. And I was wondering that how is this a reality? And the fact that through that experience, I realized that for a day, try boarding a train, going to a school, watching a movie, or operating an ATM, or getting to a government building in a wheelchair. You will realize why access means so much to the disabled. But the matter of the fact is that 2 years after the launch of the Accessible India campaign, we only have 3% of our buildings as accessible. And that includes, even the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, because I used to run a travel portal where people can book these experiences and visit monuments and things like that. And I always wondered that if these UNESCO World Heritage Sites don't have it, what about the other thousands of monuments in India? How do I see the world if I am disabled? So, how do we change that story? like, why are we not being able to do enough at a policy level or at an accessible infrastructure level? How do we change that story?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, that the problems that people with disabilities is falls in a spectrum. So similarly, the solution has to also be multi-pronged, and it has to take in all the concomitant and linked issues. There is no dearth of policies or laws, and any social intervention is not a consequence of merely policies and laws. It has to be executed by people, and people have to take the lead. The businesses have to take the lead. The governments from their side, I feel, have taken enough lead in the sense that RPWD Act is there, and there are a lot of policies that have been laid out. The businesses have to step up a little, but there is also a problem of aggregation and reasonable accommodation as to what is widely disabled, what discussed in the disability segment is reasonable accommodation. So what is reasonable accommodation? So reasonable accommodation comes with a certain implicit cost associated with it. So the low levels of compliance is because of the costs involved for the accommodations that they have to make in terms of making ramps and things like that. But some of them are sheerly because of ignorance. Some of the things that you have to make adjustments are purely because of ignorance. It is not linked to the cost involved. Now, regards to the steps that involve a certain cost, so how do you address that? So how do you address that is designing business processes, products and solutions addressed in such a way that you are not just tackling the disability segment, but you're also generating value for the society at large. So that is what exactly what we are working on, is basically designing business processes and solutions and products and solutions in such a way that it does make business sense as well, right? For example, we are aggregating. Now the issue with disabilities is, in terms of making products and services accessible, or making products and services for people with disabilities, that there is no market size, and disabilities is a very it's a wide comes in a wide variety. If you take amputation, there is wrist level amputation, there is ankle level elbow level amputation, there are people amputated at the shoulders. So the functional constraints are different, so it comes in various varieties, right? So we are working on aggregating all of these people in a network and then forming a global level network so that the numbers can be aggregated and products and solutions can be developed, and also developing livelihood modules and occupational therapy modules wherein they can work and also earn. For example, a very, very good example is scuba diving. Now, scuba diving has healing potential for people with disabilities. So, underwater in oceans, when you go under a certain depth, the body heals because of the pressure and the conditions involved. There is psychological healing as well, because you're seeing a lot of natural beauty around you, marine life, corals, and all of that. There is psychological healing happening, there is physiological healing happening. There is a lot of research that has documented the physiological healing that happens when you go underwater at a certain depth because of the pressure, right? So we have developed livelihood modules. For example, there is reef gardening, and then there is sustainable fishing using scuba diving. So we are generating livelihood in these segments where people with disabilities will work there, even in the recreational segment. So the video, if you see, go on YouTube and see that video, you will realize that there is a person with disability teaching another person with disability how to scuba dive. Now that is a field wherein he can pick up a job very, very easily, right? So when he teaches another person with disability, he is also inspiring him. If that person, in spite of his life circumstances, can scuba dive, why not me? So he is boosting local tourism. We will be developing coastal community. We will be equipping coastal communities with the skills of scuba diving so that they pick up sustainable fishing. So when they go underwater for sustainable fishing or reef gardening and things like that, they are firstly getting healed as well. They are generating livelihood also, right? So with little bit of ingenuity and little bit of innovation, it is possible to design solutions, design livelihood modules which tackle all of this on the multiple fronts. So there is perception. When a person with disability teaches another person with disability, he is shattering the perception. So if you as a able-bodied and your instructor was a person with disability, you are never going to look at him with pity, sympathy, or that he doesn't have that ability. Your perception will be shattered right and there. Since he is teaching, he is earning livelihood. He is also getting therapy underwater, right? The multiple things that are tackled. Once he has a spending power, then the society is going to look at him differently. And he is coming outdoors, so the the problem of invisibility of people with disabilities is also taken. All that we are saying is that we should just put our minds together, and there are so many innovative solutions that are possible. We are working on several of them. We are developing advanced prosthetics. We are working with a lot of robotics companies and things like that. We are aggregating the market. We are creating networks which will aggregate these people, and we are creating livelihood solutions which will also be therapy for them. It's called occupational therapy. There is research that is going on. We're setting up research institutes and so on and so forth. So that is the way it has to be handled. So it needs ingenuity, it needs a certain honesty in purpose, and it needs a certain will to move ahead. Correct? So I think it can be tackled. It's a multifaceted problem. It's a downward spiral triggered by various parameters. The inversion of that downward spiral into a positive, self-fulfilling upward spiral will also have to be multifaceted, starting with one or two powerful switches. That is what we are working on currently. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Major, for sharing that. I think you covered almost quite a few aspects. You covered the employability aspect. You covered how to generate livelihood. And I did not know that scuba diving has healing powers for these people, and that's such insightful thing that you've shared. And so many other facets, that how do we build this ecosystem, and probably a system that is more inclusive and create more job opportunities. So thank you so much. Here, probably it's a good time to ask that, how does the future look like to you? Like, you are doing a lot of stuff. You mentioned that you are bringing in these advanced prosthetics and robotics and technology and so many other things, and research, occupational therapy, and so many things. So if I have to ask you that, by 2030, if we have to achieve this goal and we have to make a equal world for all, how does the world look like in future for disabled people?
Okay. How does the world? Okay. So it is our strong conviction that the mindset that people with disability hold is that magic pill, as I mentioned earlier, that the world needs. So how do I look at 2030 being? I look at 2030 being where it's not that people with disability, we would have addressed the problem of inequality for them. We look at one step ahead, where they are the inspiration leaders of the future. So the body of a person with disability as a site of innovation, that is their future. Because of their diverse needs, and because of their the sheer diversity of the condition, and the diversity of the products and services that need to be developed, that is going to be driving innovation. And the mindset that they hold, that mindset is going to be the mindset of the future. So they are going to be the inspiration leaders of tomorrow. So that is how we look at people with disabilities, not as somebody who's helpless, but as the people who will be driving the next stage of innovation, and the people who will be driving the next stage of mindset, and a mindset of thriving in spite of hostility. That is how I look at 2020, 2030 being for this world at large. Yeah.
So question that I had, Major, and I think it was one of the important questions that I kept it there. So at the Novus X Global Impact Summit, you announced that you are upcoming global project to establish a triple elemental world record.
Yeah.
I want to know more about it, and what is the idea, and what are you trying to do, and how probably we can help.
Yeah, so the triple elemental world record is basically true to its name, conquer land, air, water, right? So we want to be creating three new world records by people with disabilities in all three elements of land, air, and water. And why are we creating this triple world record? Is to address the issue of perception, where people feel that people with disabilities can't do X, Y, Z thing. When they see people with disabilities creating world records, it is going to have a massive impact on the perceptions, right? So the world records are in land, air, and water. In land, it will be the largest team of people with disabilities scaling the highest battlefield in the world, that is the Siachen Glacier. In water, it will be the largest team of people with disabilities scuba diving simultaneously in open seas, and it will be the world's largest scuba-based therapy program for people with disabilities in the open seas, right? And doing that independently. And in skydiving, it will be the largest team of people with disabilities skydiving independently, in a single event. It's not a tandem free fall, it's not a tandem skydive. It will be independently. They will be trained to such an extent that they will be skydiving independently. Now the triple world record has multiple positive spin-offs. The first positive spin-offs is perception change, which will lead to employment, and the second positive this thing is outdoor, bringing them outdoors, addressing the issue of visibility of people with disabilities. And the third positive spin-off is that some of them will get jobs in these skills itself. Correct. So there's this global campaign that will be driving it, which will be hinged on this triple world record. So that is that. Yeah. As to coming to the point as to how you people can get involved. So there are multiple ways in which you can get involved. You have a certain skill, give it to us. We'll find a place where we can apply your skill. It's a massive project which involves the effort of massive number of people. We want coders, we want developers, we want designers, we want social media influencers, we want volunteers on ground. There's a whole lot of requirements. It is by virtue of only people like you joining hands, this journey has come this far. We have traveled across this country and trained close to 100 people with disabilities in scuba diving and scuba-based therapy. We have done all of this without a single penny being charged from them. We have not charged the people we have trained. We have done that free. We have bootstrapped ourselves. We have taken resources from well-minded individuals. We have created a network around all of this. This has happened by sheer collaboration and goodwill, right? So you have goodwill, pour it all into it. You can follow us on social media. You will know what we need. We'll be putting it out there. The website is still under construction. You can follow us. You Google Claw Global on Instagram. You can Google Claw Global on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We are there. Whenever we need something, we have what we need now. There are enough amount of goodwill. There are a lot of people reaching out to us on their own. We will need as many more people as possible. You are designers. You can make a social media post. You can write a blog. You can edit a video. You can shoot a video. You are a videographer. You're a photographer. Just land up there. Just pick your bags. Come where we do these events. Just watch these people in action. Just watch the brotherhood that goes on there. Watch the spirit. Your life will be changed forever. Just be there. Is all that I would say. Yeah.
Being present is probably one of the things that will help you create change in this world. And Major have already told you what needs to be done, what help he needs. So everybody who is listening in, please join the cause. And this is your chance to make that change happen. And also probably learn how Special Forces mindset works. So please join Major in helping. And of course, we'll put out all the links in the video itself so that you can find it easily and reach out to them and contribute more and more towards this goal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Major. At this point, I have a young voice with me. I have Ashima, who is a young professional and also member of our Global Volunteers team. And she has a couple of questions for you. So Ashima, please introduce yourself and ask the questions.
Thank you so much, Kunal sir. So I'm Ashima. I'm currently working as a consultant in an impact consulting firm. So I'll directly jump to the question. So my first question to you is, SDG 4, SDG 10 and SDG 17 ensure that it efforts to provide education, equality and data monitoring. People with disabilities will be included. However, without implementation, their promises will go undelivered, and people with disabilities will continue to be left behind. Considering this and the need for advocacy and partnerships, how can we see a real impact by 2030?
Yeah. So if we talk about real impact, what is the real impact when you reduce the problem for people with disabilities? So the only real impact which can be easily measured for people with disabilities is their employment percentages. So the unemployment percentages for people with disability is very, very high compared to the non-disabled people, right? So the single most thing that we should be working on is improving their employability. That straight away is linked to SDG 4, that is about education. That's why we are closely working with a lot of these skill development agencies, and we are also in talks with the National Skill Development Corporation and the Ministry of Skill Development. And there is a segment for skill development for people with disabilities also, right? So we are working on developing modules which will cover their full spectrum rehabilitation, physiological rehabilitation, psychological rehabilitation. Then we'll introduce them to life skills and then employable skills. So education is a very, very important part of addressing this problem of disabilities. So inequality is something that we have spoken at length at point number 10. It's inequality. We have spoken about it in the beginning. Coming to SDG 17, that is about forging partnerships. So partnerships are very, 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 very important. So the world at large is built on a model of competitiveness where businesses are told to compete with their competitors, where everybody has to compete, teams have to compete, and then there is protection of intellectual property, and you want to just safeguard what you have earned. And competition is the model that the world has been built on, which has led to conflict. We have seen that competition invariably leads to conflict. What we want to tell the world at large, as people who have been at the cutting edge of this kind of a competition and conflict, we've been at the cutting edge of conflict. We want to tell the world that it is also possible to build a world built based on a paradigm of collaboration. So when people collaborate, we have forged alliances with so many people so far. We have worked with Handicap Scuba Association US, and we are currently working with the Indian Spinal Injury Center. We are working with the governmental agencies. There's so many NGOs that we are partnering with. So we are building this giant network called the Global Ability Network, which will be bringing all of these people under this umbrella. And we feel that is when this kind of an aggregation of organization, of ideas, of people, and the affected people themselves, the people with disability, has multiple this thing. If I have something and I have something to offer, and then we collect all of this, aggregation and partnership is the way that it is going to be going ahead. So SDG 70, basically advocacy and partnerships, is very, very key to creating some form of a real impact, and we are definitely working on that lines as well. An initiative like yours also is basically bringing people from various walks of life under the same roof, bringing them under a platform. Exchange of ideas happen, and then there are new ideas. I'm sure that today, when after this discussion, when you go back, there are going to be new thought patterns in your head, right? There are going to be new ways of looking at these issues. If I have triggered one thought pattern in your head, the job is done, right? So one thing at a day, and we're going to change this world together. That's why we keep saying that it is a collective experience. Either all of us have or none of us do. What 10 people can do together, one person will take 10 ages, right? So we want to do it together. We're building a giant team. We believe in the power of collaboration, and we are bringing in a very, very new business paradigm based on collaboration. There's no competition. If somebody else does better than him, I'll concede space, learn from him, right? Move on and rather put my brains on the next thing, right? It's like that. In the COVID situation, it's 10 countries trying to develop a vaccine and safeguard it for themselves. What if then all the scientists of all these 10 countries were to work together? We would perhaps be having a vaccine by now, right? It's something like that. So this paradigm of collaboration is what we want to bring out to the world, and we'll bring it out by successfully executing what we are wanting to execute. That will be the message that we would like to send across for the model of partnerships. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the insightful answer. My last question to you would be, to ensure working of SDG 10, what actions can the youth take? What would be your 3 top suggestions for the youth like me to ensure a better sustainable world by 2030?
Yeah. So the first thing that the youth have to do is reflect on why they're doing what they're doing. Kunal had mentioned this in the beginning. I do a lot of motivational speaking. I've addressed close to 15,000 college children across Bombay. And this is the first thing I tell them, always reason out why you are doing what you're doing. There's nothing that YouTube can't teach you today or Google can't teach you today. If you want to pick up a skill, there are courses online, free of cost, you can pick it up. Once you have the why figured out, the why will trigger the where you are headed. And once you have figured out the why, you will figure out the hows. So rather than me telling you, how you should be doing it, I would want you to reflect why you are doing what you are doing. Once you have that answer, you will figure out the hows. Correct? That's the first thing. The second thing is, do that thing that feels like the reward itself. Do that thing where the journey is the reward. There is no end goal to be pursued, right? This is something that Major Jacob keeps repeatedly saying. Karam wahi karo to karna hi phal lage. So that is the second message I would like to give. And the third thing that I would like to do is, so within our families, we have a certain, talking of social impact, how do you trigger a consciousness of social impact in the youth? So within a family, there is sense of sacrifice, right? The mother, in case there is some particular food item that the child is fond of, "Oh, khatam ho raha," she'll say, "I don't like that food, you eat it." There is sacrifice. Fathers sacrifice for their children. He would sacrifice his own comfort so that the child can buy some toys, or can go out to the mall and treat himself or something like that. So there is a sense of sacrifice within the family. What if we can extend this sense of trust and sacrifice on a social level? When you come outside in the world, there is no sense of sacrifice, there is no sense of trust. Of course it exists, but it exists on a much smaller scale than what it exists in the family. So how do you trigger this? You trigger this by initiating them to small outdoor social volunteering initiatives. When you take the kids out, so I would just want the youth to just go outside and do some sort of a volunteering somewhere. Let's say you go and do a beach cleanup drive. So you would know that you shouldn't be littering the next time when you are on a beach, because it will take you would know the kind of effort that will take. You will realize that you are living in a very connected world. The litter that you're going to create is going to go into the ocean and create microplastics, going to enter the fish, and it will enter on your plate. So it will enter on your plate. It's a connected world. So, but for you to realize this and see this, you have to go out there and work, right? You have to do some sort of an activity, join some local Rotary group, or some Blue Cross or some Red Cross, join some NGOs, a whole lot of initiatives. When you do this, you will realize that you live in one world that is giantly interconnected on a social level, right? Once you realize that, then you will develop a new consciousness of social empathy, where you will realize that your actions are connected. Then you will be a better informed person, and then what you do will have a totally different connotation for this world at large. And for yourself internally, you will be satisfied. You will have a mind that has been stretched once, cannot go back to its old consciousness. It can only grow further and further, right? So that is what I would like you to trigger. So just go outside and do some sort of a volunteering, feel the society around, see the people around. There's so many problems that you can address. There's so many things that you could do. Just get out of your house and just start moving, Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashima, for your questions, and thank you, Major Arun, for your time and being with us. Okay. Before I go and before I conclude the session, there's one last question I have for you, and that is, if you have to sum up your vision for a better world in one sentence, what would that be?
That would be, former special forces, veterans, and people with disabilities uniting in action to drive internal transformation and freedom for world at large. That is what we are doing. Yeah.
Freedom for world at large. It can't be any better. Yeah. It's very difficult to sum up a session which has so much insights packed into it. But as the host, I'll try my best. As Major said, that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And we don't have to always look at the weakest link. There are ways we can make them strong, and that's where the operation mindset come in. Everything that you do in life, look at it like an operation and then lead it. All the young people, remember, as I said, always remember or try to find out why you are doing what you are doing. And as for the special forces mindset, people with disabilities are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. And we are going to improve the employability, and through this global ability network, all of this is going to happen, but we need your help. So please join us in the cause and contribute. And don't forget, either all of us do or none of us do. With that, I will conclude this session. And thank you once again, everyone, for joining in and listening in. And thank you, Arun, for your time and sharing all the insights with us. For everyone who is listening in and joining in, for a world where no one is left behind, it has never been clearer that all of us have a role to play in order to bring about change. Whoever you are, no matter where you come from, every one of us can make a difference. Every action truly counts. Get involved, attend the SDG Action Conclave 2020, participate in the SDG quiz, help raise awareness about the goals, and connect with a global community of passionate volunteers. This Global Goals Week, let us all come together to spread the knowledge about people, planet, and our sustainable development goals. Thank you once again all for joining us. Follow us on Instagram at Youth Forum India for all the updates. And don't forget to join our next session.